Okay, first question. What's your favorite video game of all time? I'd have to say Team Fortress 2 on Steam. I've been playing it for years. I really enjoy it. If you haven't played it, check it out. It's absolutely free. Just download Steam on your computer and you could download it. It's free to play. What's really great about it is there's 9 different classes, and each one plays like its own video game. So if you're into stealth games like Hitman or Assassin's Creed, you would really like the spy class because you can be invisible, you can disguise yourself as members of the other team and backstab people for instant kills. If you're like a Twitch gamer, you'd like the scout. If you like tower defense games, you would like the engineer because you can create sentries and create choke points for the other team. If that sounds interesting to you, check it out on Steam, download it, it's free. You could add my Steam ID, it's TurdFlamingMonkey, and maybe we could play some multiplayer. Okay, next question. Who would win 1v1, a bonobo or a chimpanzee? Clearly the chimpanzee, but let's look at the numbers. The average chimp is 4.4 feet tall and 132 pounds. The average male bonobo is 4.3 feet and 100 pounds. So while they're roughly the same height, the chimpanzee has a significant weight advantage. So to equate the bonobo to the average North American male, the average North American male is 5 foot 9 inches and 172 pounds. Using the same ratios, the chimp version of that average male would be 5 foot 11 and 227 pounds. So if this was an MMA fight, the bonobo, if it were a human being, would be a middleweight, while the chimp would be a heavyweight. The advantage goes to the chimp. Plus, chimps are just more violent. They are used to dominance. They're used to hunting. They're more intelligent. They can use tools. The bonobo will get his ass handed to them. Okay, the next question is a two-part question, so I'll answer them one at a time. What got me into MGTOW? Well, I started out more as a libertarian activist. I was involved with the Tea Party for a couple of years. And from there I discovered the MRA because I identified the problems facing men as more to do with feminism and the government, which is very common in the MRA and anti-feminists. So I discovered Sargon of Akkad's channel, and from there I discovered Sandman's channel, and Thinking Ape, and Barbarossa. And then after listening to the MGTOW content, I found that I agreed more philosophically with the MGTOW philosophy than with the MRA. I viewed the problem as fundamentally female, and I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, and the second part of the question was, do I believe that MGTOW is having an effect on society, and if so, is there any plausible proof of such? No. MGTOW is not a social movement. It's not about trying to fix society or make a difference in society. It's about improving the lives of individual men. The reason why, and this is what separates MGTOW from the MRM, we're trying to wake men up, not because we're trying to get like a coalition of men together so we can go to the polls and elect some MGTOW for president. Plus, we're all in different countries, and we'll never be any sort of majority that will actually get any political action going. The purpose of waking men up is so that they can improve their lives. Unlike the MRM, which has all these plans to make all these changes in laws and all this political action and activism, MGTOW is about waking men up so that they can make the changes in their personal life to improve their lives. Namely, stay away from women, don't get married, don't have kids, that sort of thing. If you do that, your life will be better. Instantly. You don't need to wait for the government, you don't need to wait for someday if enough men come around, something's going to happen. You don't have to wait for any of that. You could improve your life today. Now, of course, if enough men do that, there's going to be some effect on society. Okay, next question. Do I think MGTOW is on any political radar at present, and if so, what measures do you think the government will realistically take and how long, in my gut opinion? Well, I can only speculate. However, I'm paying close attention to how the Japanese deal with the herbivore men. They're kind of the canary in the coal mine. Right now, the government is kind of doubling down. They're trying to convince women to assume more male roles to keep their economy going, which isn't going to work. Eventually, they're going to come to a crossroads. Do they support the men to save their country? Or do they triple down on supporting women and do something to force the men to take on the responsibilities in order to make the dynamic work? That could take the form of a bachelor tax. That could take the form of some sort of draft, some sort of indentured servitude where the government forces men to work a certain number of years in order to support women and single mothers. I mean, the government can do whatever they want. They have the guns. So it's really a matter of how far they're willing to go. Now, eventually, if you push men too far, If you oppress them too much, the society is going to collapse on its own. Because men are the bedrock, the foundation of any society. We're the ones who build everything. We're the ones who do everything. When you attack men, you're attacking yourself on a societal level. I don't really know what they're going to do. They're going to have to admit at some point that they have to change direction. They can't keep pandering to women at the expense of men because they're destroying themselves. It really comes down to whether they're going to admit that they're wrong before it's too late, or whether they're just going to hit the wall at full speed and just destroy themselves. But I would pay very close attention to how Japan treats the herbivore men. I think that's a good indication of how MGTOW will be treated by Western governments. What's your opinion on why some women expect people to have sympathy for them when they take on roles that are typical to that of males? Example, a woman is a businesswoman and she complains that she works so hard and she works from 9 to 5 and pays her bills and she does this all by herself. Why does she think people are supposed to care? Well, you have to understand that women are very childlike in their mentality. So, if a child does something that a normal adult just does, they're expecting some sort of kudos. So the point is when women do things that men do every day, they expect some sort of pat on the head because they're children. And it is harder for them to do the things that men do because they're smaller, weaker, and dumber. So they do deserve some credit. If they're able to hang with the men and do what the men can naturally do, that is actually deserving of some sort of credit. I wouldn't go so far as to say that they deserve sympathy, especially if they put themselves in that position. If they're working all these jobs and because they're a single mom, well, they did that to themselves. So I wouldn't feel sorry for them, but if they do work hard, they're better than most women, so I will give them credit for that. Alright, next question. What do you think of the argument, quote, it brings awareness, unquote, or, quote, we need more female role models, unquote? Do you think that the word sexism is nowadays used for any BS which benefits women? Yes, that's exactly what it's used for. When women, especially feminists, say that we need more female role models or it brings awareness, it almost always comes attached to something they want that costs money. So they want the government or men to pay for something that benefits women and doesn't actually do anything tangible. It doesn't actually make anyone's lives better, but it gives women money. So the way they'll justify it is that it brings awareness. Like, for example, men wearing pink to celebrate breast cancer awareness doesn't actually save anyone's lives. There's nobody with cancer is going to see your pink shirt and be like, oh, you're wearing a pink shirt. Oh, I feel so much better now. It doesn't actually help anyone. But it brings awareness. So women want credit for dumb shit that doesn't actually help anyone for awareness. Like, they'll spread these memes on Facebook talking about like this picture and spread the word about some girl in some third world country who got her face bitten off by a crocodile. So all these women will share this picture. It'll get like 1 million thumbs up and 1 million shares, and everybody knows about this little girl who got her face bitten off. How many of them actually sent money to this little girl's family? Probably none. Everyone knows about this little girl who got her face bitten off. They all hit like and share. They never actually did anything to help this little girl. But they want credit. It makes them feel like a good person when they do stupid shit that doesn't actually accomplish anything, but that, quote, spreads awareness. It's lazy activism. It allows them to feel like they did something when they actually didn't do anything at all. It's the laziest, stupidest way to feel good about yourself, which, that's women's forte. Okay, next question. Should MGTOW reach out to as much men as possible, or should it be kept relatively small? I personally believe that we owe it to every man to try to wake them up. Because every man that we let slip by, who ruins their life because of a woman that we could have saved, that's a tragedy. If your goal is to try to keep MGTOW small in order to keep yourself under the radar so that your life doesn't get tampered with by any government who is trying to do something to bring men back, are you willing to just sacrifice all these men you could have saved just on the off chance that it may affect your life down the road if the government does something? I mean, they may do something. There may be a bachelor tax or some sort of, in a worst case scenario, some sort of draft where men are forced to support women, almost like that Adopt a Child where, you get a picture of the child in a third world country and for only $1 a day, except they're making you adopt a woman, like adopt a single mom. I don't know. It could get crazy, but it's all speculation. So are you willing to trade the lives of men you could save on the off chance that some crazy conspiracy theory is true? I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. Okay, next question. My question is, why do people in positions of power keep on pushing the feminist agenda forward? We know for a fact that feminism is actually a very loud, annoying minority group that's unfortunately growing, but still they are not a big group. Well, you're actually wrong. Feminism represents women as a whole. I know that sounds counterintuitive because most women say, well, I'm not a feminist, I don't agree with feminism, I'm a good girl or something, date me. When feminists propose laws and affect change, the vast majority of women support feminist laws as well as a majority of men. During the whole war on women, when feminists were talking about wanting free birth control, a vast majority, like 80% of women supported that move to have the government give them free birth control. So yeah, only about 30% of women identify as feminist. They're the ones with the big black glasses and the red and purple hair. But the majority of women will take what the feminists give them and support them. They just support them without going out and marching with them, without wearing the label. I mean, if feminism was such a minority, they wouldn't get all these laws passed. The fact that they get these laws passed is because they represent women. So when feminists accuse someone who criticizes them as attacking women, they actually are kind of serious. I know it's mostly bullcrap, but when they try to fight for something like free birth control, 80% of women support them. And just find a woman who says she's not a feminist. Like, I'm not a feminist. Okay, give her this test. Ask her if she'd be willing to repeal the laws that feminists passed. No-fault divorce, voting rights, all that stuff that feminism gave women. Ask her her opinion on that. If she'd be willing to vote to repeal those laws. And she won't. She will not repeal those laws. Because she's a feminist too. She wants all these rights and laws that feminists gave them. They just don't like wearing the label because it pushes men away. Feminism has become a toxic label for women who want to attract men. If a woman says, I'm a feminist, most men are like, I'm out of here. See ya. So women don't use the label, but they're still feminists. They still support the goals of feminism that benefit them. And because women are the majority of voters, they're 51% of the population, and if you discount the prison population, which is like 96% men, they're actually like something close to 55% of the voting population. So that's why politicians pander to women and feminists. They pander to them because they are the voters. If every single man voted against them, but all the women voted for them, they would win every election. They don't need men to get elected. Women are the majority. Alright, another question is about offering a few what-if scenarios in relation to the aforementioned trend of chronic male villainization and its possible outcomes within Western society. Well, the thing is if you're going to have an ideology based on victimhood, you have to have a villain. You have to have someone who's victimizing you. So, right now, the evil villain, the Darth Vader of Western society, is the straight white man. Now, when the straight white man is finally defeated, there's going to be a new villain, which is going to be something else. Maybe the straight black man, maybe the straight Hispanic man, maybe the straight Asian man, maybe the gay white man. I don't know. But feminism, women in general, it's not just feminism. Women need to be victims. It's how they get their power. So they need a villain to victimize them. There's nothing to complain about. They have to invent something. They have to create a villain. Now, and you see right now, since straight white men are the villains, what can straight white men do? Most of them try to become male feminists. They try to be like, no, I'm not. I'm maybe a straight white man, but I'm pro-feminism. Look, I donate money. Look, I wear, this is what a feminist looks like t-shirt. I wear pink. I suck dick. I don't know. Like, they try to make themselves part of the good guys by renouncing their identity, trying to make up for it by being a feminist. Now, eventually, because I think they were saying that white people aren't even going to be the majority in about 20 years. So when that happens, when white people, just through demographics, lose their power, they're no longer the race to blame for everything. When it becomes Hispanics or Asians or whatever, they're going to be the new villain. Whoever has a penis and has authority and power is the villain to women. They have to be victimized by men. Whatever race is in charge is the race that's oppressing them. They're going to keep playing the same card because it works. Every time women complain, they get what they want. You know, it works. Women wouldn't nag if it didn't work. Okay, and my last question is a 3-part question. Part 1. After taking into account recent discoveries about quarks and quantum mechanics, what do you think about the law of attraction? Everything is made up of almost smaller versions of itself. If you look at an ecosystem, it's all a bunch of interconnected organisms working together. And then when you look at an individual organism, it's a bunch of different organs working together. You have the heart, the lungs, the brain. And then when you look at the individual organs, it's a bunch of tissues. And then when you look at the tissues, it's individual cells. And then when you look at the cells, it's individual molecules. And then the molecules are particles. And then the particles are quarks. So it's all the same pattern. It's just different levels. But when you understand how the systems work, you can just get bigger or smaller depending on how you want to look at it. So everything's attracted, everything's coexisting. Whether it's an ecosystem, whether it's a tissue, whether it's an organism, whether it's a cell, or a particle, or a quark. I don't know if that answered your question, but I look at it as it's all just different levels. Alright, part 2. What do you think about conspiracy theories? The ones who claim that the world isn't the way it is because of human nature, but because of some elite group planning things behind the scenes. Which would mean some of MGTOW's understanding of male-to-female relations would be flawed. Well, I don't buy into conspiracy theories. Now, there is the elite, the political class, who are absolutely trying to control our lives. They're trying to get our money, they're trying to get our freedom so that they can enrich themselves. Now, where it gets into conspiracy theories is it's usually trying to identify some group. This group is always some other group that's not the person who's talking. This cabal that runs the world are just rich people. They're rich and powerful people, but they got powerful usually because they were rich to begin with. So you could join them. You could just need to become rich. So it's not like these others who are like, oh, it's this other group that I can never be a part of. You can be part of that group. If you want to be part of the 1% and call the shots, you can be part of the 1% and call the shots. Part 3 of the last question. Multiple people have written blogs about women being genetically closer to our last common ancestor with chimps than they are to men. Is this true? I tried looking deeper into it with mixed information. According to what I've read, the X chromosome is what determines, that humans are 96 or 98% like a chimp or a bonobo, and they're actually equally related to both. However, the Y chromosome is actually much less similar to either a chimp or a bonobo. So it was the Y chromosome that made humans more distinct. Therefore, because only men have Y chromosomes, we are less alike to chimps and bonobos than women, because women only have X chromosomes, and it's the X chromosome that's most alike a chimp and a bonobo. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. Please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with anyone you think it might help, and I'll see you next time.